concern about that you're not getting the representation you want.
Speaking of legitimate concerns, Congressman,
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about Afghanistan.
Sure.
You've got known for your background in intelligence, and you've been overseas in armed conflict as we are in
Yes.
Iraq and Afghanistan. I think primarily a focus of our armed forces are in Afghanistan. And just open-ended question, what do you think we should be doing there?
I'm concerned about the situation. I'll be honest with you. I'm concerned about the situation in Afghanistan. I'll tell you exactly why, and I'll try to draw a little comparison between that and Iraq. And I think that after 9/11 occurred, and this is a 9/11 ribbon, which I've worn ever since 9/11 for personal reasons. But after 9/11 occurred, I felt it was incumbent upon the United States to move Al-Qaeda out of its base. Based on my background in counterinsurgency, an insurgent group, by its very nature, is weak and chooses its own opportunities to strike, but can't survive if it doesn't have a secure base for planning purposes, resupply, and training. So if you deny the group the base, you automatically degrade their ability to conduct further attacks. Al-Qaeda was embedded in Afghanistan, and they had the support of the host government, which was run by an organization called the Taliban. So I felt it was incumbent on the United States to reduce this threat by moving them out of Afghanistan. Now, I certainly would not have intended that they should go into Pakistan and camp out there for the next 10 years, but that's kind of what happened for a variety of reasons. Over the years, it's become apparent that the security efforts of the coalition forces and the host government in Afghanistan aren't working. My aunt and uncle lived there for a number of years back in the 60s doing work for USAID, and they described it as a very poor country, no oil, no water, and very little economic base except for drugs. Even today, between 60 and 70% of the economy of Afghanistan is opium poppy drugs. Now, the current policy, now that Al-Qaeda's been removed, the current policy is to secure the country, but also to degrade the drug trade by anti-drug operations. Now, what does it do to a local tribal leader out in the mountainous territory, bitterly poor, when U.S. and coalition forces fly in and destroy their opium fields? What it means is children are going to be hungry. Children are going to be hungry. What does it mean when the Taliban comes into these remote outposts and buys the opium? It means its children are going to eat. So I believe that what we have to do is look at the economy of the country and look at that nexus of the economy, which is key to securing the country, and consider an alternative plan that does not involve airplanes and bombs and guns and shooting, but goes to the issue of buying the product, which has medicinal purposes. The United States of America buys poppy opium from Pakistan, I thought India, but maybe it's Turkey.
Turkey, yes.
Turkey. We buy this product from these countries. Well, why don't we reduce our buy from Turkey and maybe eliminate it from Pakistan, because all kinds of weird stuff's going on there, and then contract with Afghanistan, with these tribal leaders, to buy their poppy opium, but not just buy it. They sell it in a crude form, in packages in a crude form. Actually begin the process in the more secure areas, begin the process of training them how to convert it into a product that can be sold for medicine. That way, we're interfering with what I call the nexus of the trade with the Taliban. We're cutting the Taliban off. We're not bombing the fields. We're actually encouraging that they cultivate the fields. We control the manufacture of the product. We don't just ship it out, but we control the manufacture. We eliminate the waste products. and then we use this to stimulate the economy, and maybe at the same time encourage them to develop other forms of agriculture or handicrafts or other things that they can do in these remote areas to stimulate their economy. I think that considering that kind of a path would make a hell of a lot more sense to me than simply increasing our forces in that country.
Okay. Yeah, but would you agree you need some force there to sort of...
You always need some force.
Yeah.
I mean, but it doesn't have to be doing what our forces are doing. Last night I had dinner with a couple whose son is in Afghanistan. Now, I'm sorry, but they can't sleep at night. For every day he's over there, they worry. He's in hostile territory, he's in harm's way, and he's doing things that are part of his mission. But the question is this mission the best mission to secure the country? Or is there a better way to do it? Now, we pray for all of our soldiers, men and women in harm's way, that they be safe, and we thank their families for supporting them in these difficult jobs. But, you know, as somebody who spent 37 years in the military, I didn't train my soldiers to believe that it was their job to die for their country. I trained them to believe that it was their job to perform a difficult and dangerous mission, and I wanted them to survive for their country. And I wanted the mission to be smart, not stupid. So, you know, if you're confronted with something that doesn't seem to be working, you need to adjust and you need to change. And I'm not sure why Afghanistan is the best place for us to pursue the war on drugs in a traditional fashion of drug eradication. It seems to me there's a better way to do it there. Now, that may not apply in Colombia. It may not apply in some other countries, in the Golden Triangle, in Burma, and northern Laos. But I think in Afghanistan today we need a smarter policy, and that's a policy that I'd recommend.
And in my research, I saw that the European Parliament is also suggesting that we purchase sizable amounts of that. So there's a credentialed entity that
yeah.
says there is a domestic market, a legitimate market for this.
There is. There is, and I believe there are some international organizations that are looking at this, but, you know, there's not a day to lose. We have men and women in harm's way. The Taliban is resurgent. How does the Taliban fund their activities? In part through drug sales, right?
Yep.
And so as long as this current situation continues, they will be able to secure money through drug sales to secure weapons and equipment to kill our people.
Okay, great.
Kind of a numbers guy. Just a question, if I could. This, if you could scale in dollars the economic approach that you're suggesting versus what we're spending and what I call a military approach, what is the ratio? It would seem to be favorable.
I look forward to hearing from you about what those numbers might be. You see, there was a time when I had an extensive staff, and I could task them through the Office of Legislative Research or the Congressional Research Service to develop some of these numbers. But right now, what you see is what you get. But I'll bet that with a little Googling, a little work on Wikipedia, and maybe tapping into some State Department web pages that keep track of this, you could probably develop the numbers, what we call open source intelligence, which is, to me, the best source of intelligence is open source, because then you can show the fruits of your labor and other people can look at it and decide whether or not your numbers are correct. But I think we would find that the cost of deploying the military to eradicate these fields and to secure these areas versus the cost of paying for this product and letting the locals make a decision. Okay, we're going to sell to the U.S. now. They're going to give us a 20% premium on the price we get from the Taliban, so we want to sell to the U.S. So the next time the Taliban guys come to the village, maybe they won't be greeted with open arms. Maybe they'll be encouraged to stay away. And then as we begin to work with these tribal leaders on this kind of a transaction, then maybe we can get some investment in the infrastructure, connect them a little better to the rest of the country, bring in some technologies to process the product, so that they not only grow it, but they process it on site, develop some skills, and eventually squeeze out the Taliban altogether.
I would suspect your marketing suggestion probably would be not even 10 cents on the dollar of what the military solution is.
I think
just
you're
off
right.
the top of my head.